Arsenal have drawn 2-2 against Chelsea in a very exciting game at Stamford Bridge. You guys, I'm just going to tell you straight up. Straight up. I'm taking that all day, every day. That performance from minute 1 to minute like 80 was so bad. Was so bad. I will take that. And I know that it was funny because the mood in the watch along changed so much from, you know, 2-0 to 2-2. And we were having discussions about why is it that when Arsenal start so poorly, they just continue to play poorly. And it's been a consistent theme for Arsenal, I think, until today, to figure out a way to not lose when they're playing really poorly. Arsenal are not like exempt from a poor match. It was coming. We were going to play poor at some point. And after an international break, you can pretty much put money on the idea that Arsenal will probably play poorly. But that doesn't mean you have to lose. Chelsea were really good in that first half, and pretty much the entire game, I thought that they were the dominant side without really testing our goal too much. We'll talk about Raya, obviously. We're going to talk about it. Don't worry, y'all. I'm not going to run from the grind. We're going to talk about Raya, but I just feel as though when teams play bad, they have to figure out ways to get beyond that and just get to the next game. Now, it's not a win, so it's not like all is forgiven or anything like that. But for Rice to step up and to just put that ball in the back of the net after they made a big mistake, well done. Well done, my friend, because the amount of times that Chelsea made mistakes and other teams have made mistakes against us and we have not punished them has been so frustrating to watch. So frustrating to watch. Then, Saka, who stayed on, there was questions from people in the watch along saying, why is Saka not coming off? That's the reason why he doesn't come off, because you need one moment of brilliance. He puts in a fantastic cross. I'm watching it right now. And Trossard there on the back post changes the game, gives us a lifeline. We're still unbeaten, and we played 4 of the top 6 already. 2 wins, 2 draws. So, it's not all is lost. During the time where we were losing 2-0, there were so many people saying that title race done, we're never going to win anything. We're atrocious. Get rid of this player, get rid of that player. I think getting too high or too low on a lot of these results so early on in the season is ridiculous. I am so glad that we found the 2 goals to draw the game, because that showed for me that the team is moving forward. We're going to have games like this. We've had games like this every single season. Every single team has one like this. We are not exempt. The difference between a team that's going to win things and a team that's not is when you have these bad games, you just can't lay down and crumble. And up until the 80th minute, I was so scared we were going to crumble, y'all. I was like, this is it. We're doing it again. We can't kind of persevere beyond just having bad touches and the rain and being out of form a little bit and all this kind of stuff. So I'm really happy. I'm watching Declan Rice speak right now. This is a player that did not have his best individual game, but I think when we watch back, you'll see how much hard work that he was doing in a midfield that, didn't have much going on. Didn't have a much going on. We're going to talk about Odegaard, obviously, because I think he's a big part of this conversation. But he led so well today in a game where Odegaard just could not get up for it. We were bereft of any sort of ideas. There was nobody really pushing us forward. And just by scoring that goal, he changed the whole conversation around what we could get from this match. So Declan Rice, I think, again, you're not always going to have your best individual game, but you still need to show up and try to get something out of the match, period, point blank. I still don't, know if Thomas Partey not playing was like a main reason. People were saying that like no Thomas Partey meant that's the reason why we weren't playing well, but I'm not sure how Thomas Partey helps Jesus' touches, helps, Martinelli and Saka beat their men. I'm not sure how it changes. I'm happy to see that Arteta was proactive in his substitution of Zinchenko. I thought that really helped us in the second half. But a lot of people were blaming Jorginho, where I don't necessarily feel like this was a Jorginho is the person, the culprit, the guy. I genuinely think from minute 1, we had the shaky moment with Zinchenko trying to dribble out of the back, and it just rattled us something serious. Like, They were on us. We weren't up for it. Making that one mistake just triggered a little bit of that like anxiety within the team. And then we just were never right again. So it's going to be a mixed, I think, review for Mikel Arteta, because I think people will feel like, well, not starting Thomas Partey is the reason. I'm not 100% convinced on that. What I am convinced of is that Arteta made the right decision to sub Zinchenko off because he was getting absolutely annihilated. Tommy was so much better defensively and really didn't put a foot wrong throughout his time playing from halftime. And I was unsure about Eddie and ESR coming in. I'm not sure if those subs really worked, but the next subs worked. Kai Havertz worked. I thought he held the ball up. He tried to do some things, and Trossard definitely helped. So it's going to be a mixed review, I think, for Mikel Arteta. But for the team, to me, this is a step forward. And I know it's not going to feel like a step forward for other people, because it's like, well, Jess, we didn't win. A couple of seasons ago, we absolutely lose that game. We don't find a way to come back. We don't find a way to come back from that. And no, this is not Bournemouth coming back against Bournemouth or coming back against Southampton. This is away from home against Chelsea when you're 2-0 down in the 80th minute. And you come back, at least salvage a draw, remain unbeaten, and can wash this away, move on from this, and just focus on Sevilla now, So I can live with that. Let's see what you guys are saying. Martin says, I'll go back to Martin's in a second. Chosen One says, Jess, we probably lose this game last season. We do. We 100% lose this game last season. And I know that's not what people want to hear. They want to hear, oh my gosh, we're so bad. We're so this, we're so that. But the idea that Arsenal are not going to have games like this from here, they don't come very often. These types of games are coming so few and far between for us now. We're pretty much a very steady, consistent side when it comes to the Premier League. When we get these types of games, we can't afford to just lose 3-0 like we did to Brighton at home, or lose 3-0 to Crystal Palace away from home a couple of seasons ago. We have to find ways to get back into the game despite playing poorly, because it was still a poor game. Nothing changes that fact. I'm not going to change my feeling on the game and say, oh yeah, like we were actually not that bad. We were poor. We were really, really bad in that game, but we found a way to salvage a point. And that's still important, because you're not always going to play your best. Matthew says, blaming Jorginho, how he made 15 passes into the final third and won 6 out of 6 ground duels. Matthew, come with the facts. Blaming Jorginho didn't make any sense to me. It was very much, I wanted to see Partey start. We're not playing well. That's the reason why we made a mistake. Partey didn't come in at all. So I wonder if he just wasn't fit enough or whatever, but we'll see how things progress from there, and see if he starts to get more playing time, because he didn't come in, which was strange for me, but who knows? Mark says, Rice says that goal he scored invigorated the team to go again. He praises all the subs coming on for changing the game. You just have to find a way. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it was a penalty or a scrappy goal mouth, whatever. Who's Amelia Mitch? Oh, baby. You just have to find a way to get something going. And Rice didn't have his best individual game, but he figured out a way. So, yeah. Let's see. Hardly says, a couple seasons ago, we have won, Jess. I mean, if we're going to call this Chelsea the same as the Chelsea that we beat a couple of years ago, like, I think it's disingenuous to say that had we had went through the type of game that we did away from home against one of the better sides, that we would have figured out a way to get a point. It's disingenuous to say that. We all have been watching Arsenal for our entire lives, large parts of our lives, however old you are. I know you guys know that had like a couple of seasons ago, we would have not won that or not gotten anything from that game. So no, Chelsea are nowhere near as bad as what people are making them out to seem. Like I said this in my preview many, many times, that this is not going to be like playing Chelsea last season. Their underlying metrics say that they're a very good team, a top 4 side that lacks the ability to finish off their chances. And that's what it felt like today. We were playing against a top 4 team away from home. They were up for it. We weren't, and we had to figure out a way to come back. So they're not a 12th place team. That's how I feel. Thab says we don't get points last season. Anybody that knows Arsenal, that's been watching Arsenal for a long time, knows that is a certain loss a couple of seasons ago. So for me, it is kind of like a step forward for me personally when I'm thinking about the personal things that I feel about Arsenal. But of course, it's not a good performance whatsoever, and I'll never paint it as that. But sometimes you play bad and you still need to find a way to win or get something out of it. See, Wilder says, guess what they're talking about on Sky? The goalkeeper situation. Because we're going to get into that for sure. Kadwani says, I agree with you, Jess. Chelsea are good. They're no slouches, y'all. They're no slouches, and they will feel like they bottled that. They will feel like they bottled that because they were on their way to 3 points and definitely shit the bed once we scored that first goal. But again, we didn't even threaten them at all in the first 70 minutes of the game. We didn't even threaten them at all. Once we started pushing men forward and being decent in wide areas, we were all right, and so I don't know, they're going to feel probably disappointed by that, but probably the same way that we felt about not beating Spurs, we'll probably feel that way. You're at home, feel like you're the better team or, whatever, and then you draw the game. But yeah. Stuff Puffin says Trossard consistently shows up. He does. And I think we'll have conversations about Trossard, whether or not he's a starter or not, or starting level player. He does tend to show up with goals off of the bench, but Martinelli is the starter. So, he's not going to start games that often. But I think there's this narrative around Trossard that he's not good or something like that. That is a top quality individual, and he shows it most of the time when he's out there. So this is a player that people were so disappointed in when we played against Lens that's now singing his praises now. And I want everybody to keep that in mind when we start talking about our players. We can criticize their performances and ask questions of, their form or whatever. But I think the consistent flip-flopping on players and changing the narrative and changing, being a revisionist historian on players because they have 1 or 2 bad games, for me, is a little exhausting. Some of the takes that I saw at 2-0, you guys never want those to get out into the world. You don't, because they're embarrassing and it doesn't make any sense, because you can't be a good team that beats Man City 1 week, but if you lose to Chelsea, everybody's crap. Doesn't really work like that. But again, we can criticize the performances, but we just need to move past this. We can put, a pin in this and move on to Sevilla. We have to turn very quickly because this is going to be a difficult away game in the Champions League. But, I saw some things that I was like, I know you guys don't really believe that. We have some questions to ask about the team, obviously, but to make it seem like one bad game makes a player poor is kind of annoying. Kadwani says Arsenal denied a penalty. Keeper clattered Jesus far. I thought the refereeing was really poor today. If I'm honest with you, I thought he was just lack consistency when it came to Chelsea made a tackle, an Arsenal player went down, no foul. Arsenal, does this to a Chelsea player, they go down, foul, yellow. I thought he was really inconsistent. I thought that the Sanchez flying out of the box and not getting anywhere near the ball but clattering into Jesus should have been looked at. It was kind of like the Onana Wolves situation where if you don't get anywhere near the ball but you clatter into the player and the player could have gotten the ball, then it has to be looked at. But they didn't even look at it. I just kind of think that the refereeing was poor today. I thought he allowed them to kind of beat us up, but didn't allow us to touch them back. But maybe I'm just being biased. Talib says Mudryk fake goal. I mean, if anybody was going to score, it was going to be Mudryk. It was totally a fluke. But fair play to him. What are you going to do? Keenan says, we don't seem to be able to pick out a killer pass. Trossard made 4 runs that could have easily been goals. Yeah, there's something not quite, maybe we're missing Xhaka a little bit. Xhaka, he was pretty much considered like a, second striker type, just getting into the box. But Xhaka was a very good passer of the ball and could pick out a pass and could find Martinelli through the lines, find Jesus through the lines, can make those passes across the pitch. And we're just lacking a little bit of something here. And we haven't quite figured it out yet. But it's just something that I think needs to be worked out. Let's see. Nashville says, let me sell the entire right-hand side for 30 million. Comment, get out. I will be a hero among the Lee Gunner faithful. Yeah, it was kind of annoying seeing people call our players crap or we need to get rid of them or, whatever because they were having a poor game. You know, it was just the way that we do that is just so annoying. And I know sometimes in the motions you sometimes can't really like pull back because you're so emotional about what the potential result could be, but it just gets a little tiring, doesn't it? Um Let's see. Arsenal FC moment says Chelsea's trophy this season, drawing with Arsenal. You guys, that was their cup final and they didn't win it. Togba says the LDs this year have been tough on us. 2-2, Fulham, Spuds. Oh, the London derbies. And now Chelsea. We need to watch out for them. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. I didn't even think about that the London derbies are going against us this season, or they're all 2-2 draws. It's very interesting. I'm glad you brought that up. They're definitely not as easy as they were last season, or we just perform better in them, or the teams in London were actually a lot worse. If you think about Spurs and Chelsea last season, they're nowhere near as good as they are right now. But again, we found a way not to lose the game despite playing the worst that we've played this season so far. I'm going to star some of these for actually when we come up to the players during player ratings because we need to have a conversation, I think, about Odegaard. Tawanda is saying that Rice at 8 didn't work against Chelsea. I think that's an interesting point as well. Wave says Fabio would have gave those passes to Trossard. Fabio wasn't even on the bench today, which is a huge question that I had today. I'm hoping it's because like his partner is in labor or something like that. But if he just did not make the squad and he's not injured, I'm concerned because how do you go from being a player that's potentially starting to falling off a cliff so quickly when I don't think his performances have warranted that. And he adds something that we just don't have in some of our, midfield players, which is the final ball on the edge of the box. So that was concerning to me, but no, Fabio couldn't have come on because Fabio wasn't even in the team, so there you go. John Donuts, thank you so much for your super chat. Says, Jess, I find it funny Mudryk scored and Trossard, who we went and got, scored as well. Plus, I said before, I will say it again, Trossard is better off the bench. I think anybody that's saying that and is saying that with Chess probably feels really vindicated there. Again, we've seen Trossard, especially last season when he first came to Arsenal, he was starting games for Gabriel Jesus when Eddie became ineffective and played really well. And so I think this idea that he can only play off of the bench now is a little bit like disingenuous to what we saw last season. But this season, his best performances has come off the bench. That's fine. What I won't have is that Trossard is like average or not very good, because after the Lens game, I did feel like people were speaking about him in a way that was like, who? Trossard? Be serious for like 5 seconds. Aman says, do you think we should stop Zinny from coming inside? Because to me, it's no longer a secret weapon as teams are figuring it out. I want to talk about this. And again, like I told you guys, we're going to get into the actual player ratings, which is when we need to get we're going to get into more individual performances there, but we're just kind of doing the bigger themes of the game. So, bear with me. I think you guys actually like when we have these longer conversations first, and then we go into the player ratings and we kind of like speed through some. I think it's a better way of doing the show. And there's 300 of you guys in here, so make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel. Aman's asking, should Zinny stop coming inside? Zinchenko, for me, is still one of our, best players. The problem that we have with Zinchenko is not that he's not a very talented individual. The problem that we have now is, like you said, it's been clocked. Every good team is figuring out a way to keep him from coming central, and when he does, stopping him from progressing and then hitting the space behind him. And Sterling was cooking him, which was so sad to see. And he needed to come off. But we need to figure out a different way to play Zinchenko. And if the only way that he's useful to us is being inverted, we have a problem, because I do think that then we're not going to be able to use him as much. I think we need to separate ourselves from this inverted identity where it's like, if we don't invert, we can't exist. We need to have 3 standalone midfielders that can win a midfield battle without having the overload, and fullbacks that can exist in those wide areas and not have to come central. I just think it kind of is coming off like one trick pony, and the good teams are able to stop it. So Chelsea was good at stopping it, and so did Manchester City. And so he's been pretty ineffective in those situations. And then when you make him defend and defend and defend, especially against the better wingers, he's going to get cooked. So for Zinchenko, like today, he needed to come off. But I think overall, we need to find a plan B and C. We don't have a plan B for the attack, and we don't have a plan B for when inverting is not working. And so, like, what are we going to do there? I don't know why it's like Zinchenko can never play in midfield. If we're looking for a midfielder to control tempo, get on the ball, get us forward, find balls between the lines and stuff like that, I don't know why we just don't try Zinchenko in midfield. And before somebody says, well, he basically plays in midfield anyway, not not in a way where it doesn't expose us at the back. If you have Tommy already there playing in the defense, we've shut the back door. So Zinchenko will have a better, foundation to play off of. And is it just that only when he's arriving he's effective, or can he not play in midfield? Am I believing that? I don't know. But you can't just literally, if the only way that he's effective is in this system, and it's a system that we at some point need to graduate from, Zinchenko will be somebody that will be no longer able to use. And I just think he's too good of a player to just put on the shelf completely. So find a different role for him. Use your brain, Arteta, figure out a way to use him tactically that's not just inverting, because that is too good of a player to just have sitting on the bench because we can't invert, but also ignoring like the obvious parts of like that system is not working as much as it used to. So yeah, like the Zinchenko situation is interesting because I think it's more of a systematic issue than the player. He did make that mistake early on, in the box or whatever, but people are figuring out they've already figured out the inversion. And when you're not playing against the worst teams, it gets exposed. And it's not like we're not looking for a player to do the exact things that Zinchenko's doing for our midfield. So why don't we try to play him there? Like, if we only bought him for this, we shouldn't have bought him. You can't only get a season out of a player before he's rendered useless. That's such a waste of fucking money. Figure out a way to use Zinchenko in a different way. If you can't invert him, just play him in midfield and play Tommy at left back. The fact that we haven't seen it is very strange to me. I know he does it for his international team, but why doesn't he do it, for us? At least like once or twice. Aman says Rice looked much better when they moved him to the 6. I mean, probably maybe because it's his best position. He looked good there against City when we were kind of like trying to get up the pitch and stuff like that. But against Chelsea, it wasn't as effective. So we kind of see when he's good at playing in the 8 role and when he's not as good playing in the 8 role. When he moved to the 6, he was much better, and we had a better anchor in midfield. So it's interesting. Penal Dog says even Pep doesn't use inverted fullbacks every game. Even just switching it up, Zinchenko's not a player that should be playing every game anyway. So even if you switch it up and like some games you use the inversion and other games you don't, I think you're better off. But we use it almost every single game, and we're seeing that it's less and less effective as time goes on. Gunner in CDN Rockies says, smash the likes up, people. There's 350 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel. Drew Magus says, I think Zinchenko is playing midfield if Timber was there. I mean, maybe that was an option. I don't buy into the idea that Zinchenko just cannot play left center mid. I can't, because that's the position that he's basically playing anyway. But we need another defender back there. When he goes central, if he's just already there, then he could just do his job without we have to worry about that spot being just like open back there. And then he doesn't have to do as much 1v1 defending as he's doing in wide areas against wingers that are just cooking him, I think to evolve, like he needs to be able to evolve a little bit more in our team, because for me, Zinni is such a good player. I think he's way too good to just rot on the bench, because we can't figure out a way to use him differently, or, to continuously play him in a way that doesn't necessarily work all the time. That tactical flexibility is something that we've been talking about quite a bit. So there you go. Kelly says, lucky Arsenal. The weird thing is that I don't think we were lucky. And I'll tell you why. The reason why I don't think we were lucky is because beyond, the flurry in the first part of the game, and the Cole Palmer chance and the Raya mistake, they didn't really put us under that much pressure. We weren't backs against the wall. The game was very much played in the middle third, or like the around the center circle. Both teams were kind of just like the ball was out a lot. It was contested a lot. People were taking bad touches. Chelsea players were also taking lots of bad touches, but we were unable to capitalize on it. And so I don't think that it was a case of Chelsea had 10, 11 chances that they just didn't put away and we just happened to scrape by. The 2 goals that we scored were quality. One was off of a mistake that they made, so if, we're only getting lucky because they're making a mistake, then isn't it equally the same for them? Weren't they just lucky because we made a mistake? So we weren't lucky. We earned those 2 goals and Chelsea dropped the ball, so we weren't necessarily lucky. We earned a point in that game. We didn't have that's not how football works. The referee didn't help us out. We didn't get a penalty that we didn't deserve. Nothing. No own goal, nothing. We earned that point because the game wasn't done in the 80th minute and Chelsea, we were good in the last 10 minutes of the game. So I don't think we were lucky. That's not how it works. Don Arsenal says Zinchenko, Odegaard isn't creating. They just keep the ball. Fair enough, but who else is creating for us? Like, you guys don't like Vieira, even though Vieira is probably our most creative number 8/number 10. ESR doesn't, he's not up the pecking order. I didn't really think that he did that much in this game either to warrant anything other than that. So if you guys don't want Zinchenko there and you don't want Odegaard there and you don't want Kai Havertz there and you don't want ESR there and you don't want Vieira there, then do you just want to play with nobody there? Like, the thing is like, we have to try something. I like to try something different, because we're not going to bring anybody in to play that position. So we need to internally figure it out. And Arteta needs to internally figure it out. Like, I think the idea that nobody would be able to offer anything in those positions is kind of like a joke. Let's try something else. Talia says, I told you guys about Jorginho, not on the level of Partey, but the agenda on Partey is crazy. Jorginho, very weak defensively and amazing in through passes. Again, they put up I forget who put it up, but he won all 6 of his duels today, and he had the most passes into the final third today. So it wasn't nobody has ever said that Jorginho is better than Partey. I don't know who is pushing that agenda, or it's you guys hear something bad about Partey, oh, he's not fit enough, and you guys take it and run with it and say, oh, people think Jorginho is better. I even said at the beginning of the game when Jorginho started that I don't think Jorginho is better than Partey, but I also don't think Jorginho is going to stop us from getting something out of this game. So nobody has said that Partey is not as good as Jorginho. No one is saying that. But equally, Jorginho didn't do much in this game to ruin it for us. It was did you guys watch the game or not? Did you actually look at it with your eyeballs, or were you watching with a blindfold? These Partey stands, let it rest. When you guys were saying Partey needs to be starting in this team, he wasn't even available because he was injured. Give it a rest. The guy's not fit enough. He has head loss in big matches as well. Actually, he's either unavailable or has head loss in these games. Let it rest. Nobody has ever said that Jorginho is better than Partey. But is Jorginho a bum? No, he's not. So give it a rest, lay down. Nobody has ever said that before. Nicholas J says, typical Arsenal performance, do shit against Man City, get a lucky goal, overhype Arteta, start shitty against Chelsea. Long live the Arsenal. AFCP says, not ESR changed the game for me, was aggressive. He deserves to start against Sheffield. I would love to, I will when I rewatch, the game, unfortunately, because I always have to rewatch it. I will rewatch ESR. What I felt like is he was battling in there, but I didn't really see anything where I was he has to start against Sheffield. Now, would I start him? Probably, because we're going to need people to rest. So, yeah, it's fine. I don't think ESR did anything spectacular, but equally, if he started against Sheffield, I think he'd be fine. Let's see what you guys are saying. There's 333 of you guys in here, which is amazing. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel. Big G from the group home, thank you so much for your super chat, says, I believe Arteta viewed Timber as an evolution alternative to Zinni. It would have worked. Got to pivot Zinni would be proper 8, Jesus to false 9. Yeah, 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 like, there had to have been something there, I think, with Timber, and Zinchenko can't just be, like, not used at all because he's too good of a player not to use him at all. So, yeah, I agree with you. Maybe there was a little bit of an evolution there, but I forget who said it originally in the point, but there has to be an evolution for Arsenal beyond the inversion because if we need Jesus to come deep and Zinchenko to come into midfield in order to win the midfield battle, then we have a really weak midfield that needs to be looked at. I think the left center mid position is going to be something that the conversation that roars on for a long period of time because we didn't quite recruit there the way that I think a lot of us anticipated us doing. And as you guys have already said, Declan Rice looked good in one game in the left 8, but not so good in another. So do we really want to play him over there all the time? I don't know. So we just, yeah, it's something that's going to roar on, but I'd like to see something creative from Mikel Arteta that lets me know that he's not just sitting there twiddling his thumbs. Like we have Sheffield coming up. We also have Burnley coming up. I think those are decent enough games at home to look for a solution at left 8 that makes us feel like we have a good enough midfield 3 to, win a game without Jesus having to come in and create and also Zinchenko having to invert. It's a lot of pieces that have to go out of their natural position. So we end up not having a left back there and we end up not having a striker up there either. So it's just a lot, but I think Timber was meant to play a really big role. I've told you guys that many, many times. And I'm very interested to see how he's integrated in when he eventually comes back in. But until then, we need to figure out something. Let's see. King Cobra Kai says Ben White was shocking. He cost us the second goal. It was a combination of him and Odegaard and just calamitous defending the whole way through. If you want to say it was Ben White, then say it was Ben White. If you want to say it's Odegaard. But I think both of them were kind of bad on that goal. And our right-hand side in general was not very good the entire game. So there you go. Travis says, to me, it seemed like players didn't expect Chelsea to come and play. I just think we look like how we always look after international break, which is a little bit sleepy, needing to build into the game, things like that. It seems like a typical Arsenal thing for me, a pattern, if you will. And then you have players that are just really out of form. We have players that are really out of form right now, and it's unfortunate, but one of them is Odegaard. And as much as I love him, I said this yesterday, that I'm not going to rewrite history and say that he's not a good player because I think that that's kind of it's kind of pathetic to go that far. And anybody who does that, I think it's I can't help but come on, be serious. But sometimes players need to come out of the team. And if Odegaard has not had a typical Odegaard game all season, he's had games where he's been good, he's had games where he's been okay, and then he's had games where he's been shocking. And so I don't know if he just needs a little bit of a break, maybe needs a little kick up the ass, but we're getting to the point now with these Odegaard performances that he doesn't need to be he doesn't need to be stripped of the captaincy. He doesn't need to be replaced. He doesn't need to be, tarred and feathered. He just, Sheffield almost scored. He just maybe needs a game out of the team, to just take a breather and play somebody else there and see if we can get something else going. Sometimes players just need a dropping, and Odegaard, if he it's been a couple of games now where it's okay, the form is not coming up, so maybe we need to try something different. And that last season when Martinelli was having a similar situation where I think it was, Jesus had been out of the team for quite a bit of time, and Nketiah, that relationship was not working that well. And Martinelli was kind of suffering. He was going through his own form issues, whatever. He came out for one game. Trossard played, and then he came back in and was fine. Maybe Odegaard needs a little bit that, but instead of saying that he's this terrible player that needs stripping of the captaincy and he's a bum and he's a fraud, can we not back one of our best players to get back into form if he just needs a little bit of time out? I think we're so quick to kill our players. And it's embarrassing, I think. How quickly we are to just turn our backs on players that have been so consistent for us, have, Martin Odegaard scored 15 goals and got 7 assists last season. So yeah, it's going to take me a while to start saying that he's not a very good player or he's the reason why we're awful or anything like that. So, yeah, Odegaard probably needs to come out for a little bit. That's something that I can see, But let's go ahead and get into these player ratings. I do want to let you guys know that the post-match show for this Chelsea game is going to be with me and Gunnar Lee. So if you guys have seen Gunnar Lee, he's been on my channel before. I think I've been on his channel as well, and he's been on AFTV. So good opinions. We'll have tons to talk about, obviously, because this was a very entertaining game with a lot of questions. I think we leave with so many questions. And so me and Gunnar Lee are going to be doing that on the Patreon side. If you guys want to become a patron, you guys can find the link in. It's actually, I think I forgot to put the description in here, but I'll put a link up eventually. But you guys can join as a patron if you guys want to see that show. If not, don't worry. I'll be here. But I just wanted to let you guys know that we are going to be doing a show, and it's probably going to be very, 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 very tasty because we have loads to talk about. Now, let's get into the mess. I am so hungry, you guys. Like, I know I say this every time, but I am dying. I really am so hungry. We'll start off with the big one because you guys are like, Jess, talk about Raya. Jess, talk about Raya. I don't run from the grind, okay? I don't run from the grind. We are going to talk about it. Raya. Oh my goodness. Like, getting chipped. He thinks he's going to cross it. Even Mudryk is trying to cross it. It goes over his head. The distribution wasn't great today. And then he had that one situation where he just kind of like passed it straight to Cole Palmer. He needs to cut that stuff out. I mean, it's just that simple. Like, you can't be that rattled. And in the games where we played against the smaller teams, he's been very good. And then in the games where we played against the bigger teams, he's had some big moments where they really stood out. I think, especially against Manchester City and against Chelsea, he just has to cut that stuff out. Now, is this a win for Ramsdale? You guys will let me know in the comments. I'm not sure that I haven't seen Ramsdale do the same things. So there's definitely that. But Raya is not, he needs to clean that shit up. He really needs to clean that shit up. Like, he did not have a great game and he's looked shaky. I thought he settled at the end of the Manchester City game, but he never quite settled in this game, which was really strange. So it's unfortunate for him. People will count this as a win for Ramsdale. Cast your mind back to last season, y'all. It's not like Ramsdale didn't get chipped against Sporting. I don't know. I think the one thing that really stands out to me about Raya is not necessarily getting caught out on the Mudryk chance. It's the getting rattled when he's playing out from the back and making the decision like to pass it and then it goes to Cole Palmer, or like against Manchester City when Rice, he passed it to Rice like in a random position, like right in front of the goal. It's clearly by instruction that he's being told to do these things, but he needs to figure out when to do it and when not to do it, and finding the balance between doing what the manager is asking you to do and playing the risky pass, but also knowing when not to do it. I think it's difficult, and he's not really finding the balance just yet. So yeah, he was not good today, and I'm not going to even sit here and tell you that he is. Am I going to flip-flop and say that I think Ramsdale is a better goalkeeper? I don't think any of you guys can really say that with chest, because if that were the case, then Ramsdale wouldn't have ever given up goals like the way that Raya's given up goals or make mistakes. It's not like Ramsdale didn't do the exact same thing against Southampton and we actually got caught out for it. So I don't think it's necessarily about, oh, well, Raya made these mistakes, so now Ramsdale needs to come back in. I think it's more like, are we getting out of Raya what Arteta really wants to get out of him in terms of the distribution? And I saw the distribution really like go up a level against Manchester City once he settled down. It never came back in this game. It actually never existed in this game at all. He wasn't asked to do it that often. We didn't have to play out from the back a lot. But the times where he had to, it was really shaky. And you can't have a moment against the big teams like you had with Cole Palmer and which you had against Alvarez. You have to cut those out. So he had a poor game. I have no problem like admitting that. But should Ramsdale come back in? That's up to you guys to decide. I don't think so. I think I'm fully okay with David Raya continuing to play. because I know Ramsdale is going to make those exact same mistakes. But what Ramsdale is not going to do is play out from the back under pressure. He's going to hoof it long, and that's not what the manager wants him to do. So I'm going to give him a 4. It could be even less than that, but, I don't know. He didn't even really, he had to make one really good save at the end against Jackson and he made it. But, what else? I think he made a good save after he made the mistake against Cole Palmer. So, he didn't actually have to make that many saves. It's just, that one Cole Palmer situation and then getting chipped the way that he did. I think that's going to skew it like very badly, which is fine because you guys may have won the battle, but I'm going to win the war. I don't run from the grind. I said what I said. I feel very comfortable saying that I still think Raya is the better goalkeeper. I won't change. I won't change unless something else changes. Or Ramsdale has a game where I think, oh yeah, he's way better than Raya. Haven't seen it. Ben says, I'll give him a clip around the ear. Boy says, the problem with Raya is that we've been told he's good with his feet. He's even shown it in some games, but he's no better a shot stopper than Ramsdale. The stats don't back that up. So if you want to look at the statistics and I'll show them to you guys. I think I'll do it when I do the thing with Gunnar Lee and then I'll make a clip out of it because people are asking me, what are these stats? The stats actually really don't lie in regards to the shot stopping. Raya saves more goals than he should, and Ramsdale saves less goals than he should, and that's been consistent over the last 2 seasons. Not just at Arsenal, when Raya was at Brentford as well, where he's getting peppered a lot more anyway. So I think it's the playing out from the back thing that, it needs to be more consistent. When it's good, it's really good. And we've seen it, and I'm not going to pretend like we haven't seen it. I know people are pretending as though they've never seen Raya do anything good at Arsenal. You're lying to yourself. It's the mistake that he made against Lens, the mistake that he made against Manchester City where we were not punished, and the mistake that he made today. That we're all kind of coming from playing out from the back. But when he's good, he's really good. So it needs to be more consistent. It needs to be all game, every game, no matter what. But I still don't want to see Ramsdale back in the goal because I didn't forget I was at the Fulham game. He was atrocious. And he has been for a while. But he can come back in. Let's see what happens. Chosen One says, every keeper makes mistake. Matter of fact, every player makes mistake. While he needs to fix up with the sloppy moments, he should also get credit for a few good saves that he made. He'll bounce back. I mean, he just needs to cut out those mistakes and not be as shaky. But again, he's played 6 games for us or so. I think we can give him a little bit more time to really settle in and stuff like that. I think it's the way that Arteta did it and how harsh it was. It put instant pressure on Raya to be much better than Ramsdale from minute 1. So he could not make a single mistake. He had to keep all these clean sheets and people were going to be on him no matter what. And so I accept that. But again, it's a long season. I think at the end of the season, it'll be very, very obvious why we brought in Raya and that he should be the number 1. And it was the right decision. These games at the beginning, y'all, it's like y'all forgot what happened at the end of last season. I just can't forget it. Salah says, I think the pass Gabriel made to Raya was not right, just against Man City. The distribution is what I'm concerned about. And I said that too. But again, because, people wanted to be harsh on Raya, they blamed him for the Alvarez. So I even let them have that. But, Gabriel didn't even pass it back to him properly. So we'll see how things unfold. I think people are still highly emotional about Ramsdale and they're thinking about things and Ramsdale was treated poorly. So I hate Raya. He's making mistakes, but these are mistakes that we've seen other goalkeepers make playing out from the back. He needs to just clean it up, clean it up. And this is the first time Raya is playing for a big club. And I think these are the first times that these big games that were for Brentford were free hits actually mean something. And I think he needs to adjust to that. At Brentford, it didn't matter if you got slapped up 4-0 by Chelsea or Man City or Spurs or whoever. But at Arsenal, these games are like you have to win them. And so he's going into these tough games like this is the first time that it means something. So I want to give him a little bit of time. I think he's a fantastic goalkeeper and will prove to be that. Um, there's a reason why we went for him first before we went for Ramsdale. So yeah. Let's see. Mark says Raya is a 5, big issues, saved us at 2-0 when Sterling was through. He needs a lot of work if the title to be a title winning keeper. And that's the thing. It's like, is he going to become somebody that's going to give us that 5% difference to win the league? That's where we're at right now. And beyond the constant Ramsdale, like, oh, he was treated so poorly, bring him back in the team. I genuinely think like we need to focus on how Raya can close the gap on Ederson or Allison, the kind of goalkeepers that are going to help you win a title. And like right now he's making too many mistakes on the ball, but eventually, it's not like he's not playing with a new set of defenders. And like, it's not like he's ever played with Arsenal before, but nobody gets adaptation, or he doesn't get adaptation because people are mad about Ramsdale. I feel like that's a little bit unfair, but fair enough. It's a long season. Quentin says this guy is not a good keeper. He makes costly mistakes every week. If you don't think he's any good, then fair enough. But I mean, everybody rated him before he came to Arsenal, and now all of a sudden he's not any good because he made a couple of mistakes. Like, I don't know. Let's see. Johnny says you can't expect a goalkeeper to have great distribution on rain. Even field players were shit. Like, took the wrong shoes. I don't know if it's the rain. I just think it'll become clear at a certain point. If it's not clear now, Austin Trusty's playing. It'll become clear at some point. Like, I'm very confident in this. I think people are just highly emotional about Ramsdale, to be honest. Like, I think they're ignoring very clear issues with the goalkeeper that we had in between the 6 before. I could show you guys the statistics right now, and you guys would tell me that I wrote them myself. I know exactly why Arteta and Anaki felt like it was important for us to change the goalkeeper. Now it's about Raya really stepping into those shoes and rising to the occasion, because he's no longer playing at Brentford. He's playing at Arsenal. Get with it, buddy. So yeah, I'm going to give him more time. But yeah, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Unless you guys want to kill Raya more or try to convince me that I've been wrong this whole time. You guys want to keep playing this game, or you guys want to do something else? All right, let's keep going. You didn't play. I don't even know. Like, people are blaming him for the second goal. People are blaming him for the second goal. What I remember from the second goal is that was he was kind of up there. He kind of lost the ball, or they picked it off of him, and then they went right past Odegaard. Odegaard made like a weak challenge, and Ben was out of position. And it's why I told you guys in the watch along before. This is why I told you guys on the watch along before why Saka and Martinelli were struggling so much, is because Ben White and Zinchenko could not support the winger at all, because, Pochettino was smart and put hard workers on those sides to make it really difficult for Ben to go forward. And like, then if you lose it, you're exposed, So Ben White, he didn't really overlap that often, and he didn't really support Saka that often. But the one time that he did, he lost the ball, and exactly, I think, what we didn't want to happen happened. So you lose the ball. Losing the ball isn't a crime. Players lose the ball. I think what was the bigger issue was the lack of conviction in the tackle from Odegaard, and then they just ran down the pitch. Madrid was trying to cross it, and it went in the goal. So I'm not sure if I'm like, oh, Ben White, he 100% was at fault because he lost the ball. Newsflash, players lose the ball. That doesn't mean you need to, that the player, like, he was in Chelsea's half. It's not like he lost it in our half. He lost it in Chelsea's half, and players lose the ball, but out of possession, Odegaard didn't have anything about him in that tackle. So I thought he just had a whatever game, to be honest, and everybody was so poor. But he actually makes the block that saves us from going 1-0 down really early when Zinchenko makes the mistake. And so, he was, it was what it was. I'm gonna give him it's hard. It's like, give him a 5.5. It wasn't great, but equally, I'm having a hard time feeling like it's his fault. Like, it's his fault that the second goal, How is it that you lose the ball in Chelsea's half and the person that loses the ball is at fault? Do you guys hear what I'm saying? Like, if he loses it in our half like at the top of our penalty box, I'm hearing you. I'm not really hearing that because players lose the ball all the time. That's not an excuse to just completely fall apart. Like, you know what I mean? So, yeah, 5.5 for him. African Giant, thank you so much for your super chat, says a battle of two goalkeepers, gutting that the naivety of such a young team costs us the 3 points, growing points, but we move up the Chelsea. Oh, you're okay. Wait, are you a Chelsea fan? Okay, so you're saying a battle of two crap goalkeepers. Okay. I couldn't see the little two. Battle of two crap goalkeepers, gutting that the naivety of such a young team cost us 30 points, growing pains, but we move up the Chelsea. You guys bottled it. No excuses. You guys bottled it. You guys should have won the game. 2-0 up. Be serious. But no, Sanchez did Sanchez have a bad moment? Yeah, because he was playing out of the back and he made a mistake because goalkeepers make mistakes playing out of the back. Okay. Yeah. No, I get you. I'm so glad that we punished you guys though for it. Crispy says 4 was sloppy. Tawanda says 5. Let's see. Andrew says a 4. Let's see. Donis says 4.5 out of 10. I'm still looking for more. Aman says 4. John Donut says 4. Victor says starts to show that Raya is even better than Edison, Allerson, Ramsdale, but does he? I don't know. Let's wait and see for the next couple of months. It's funny because if a player doesn't start off perfectly when they come to Arsenal, we immediately write them off. I would give them a little bit more time and to really settle into the team. But if you guys want to write them off now, fair enough. You guys have written off plenty of players early on and have had to eat those words. So does Odegaard ring a bell or what? You guys completely writ him off after his first loan, and he was great for 2 seasons. Having a rough time right now, but it's almost like we never learned. Ben White had a bad game, first game he's ever played for Arsenal. Everybody wrote him off. One of our most consistent performers. Ramsdale, written off before he even kicked the ball because he got relegated a couple times, ended up being good for us. So if we haven't learned by now not to just write players off because we're emotional and they have a couple of bad games, let it cook for a minute. Let it cook for a minute. Give them at least till December. Damn. But yeah, let's see. World Boss says Raya will come good. I'm sure of it as well. Like, I'm not buying into this like fake emotional like BS with Ramsdale when you guys were cussing the hell out of him. But you guys like him, so you want him to stay in the team. Tawanda says Raya, I like him, but he had a bad game. Exactly. Let's see. What else are you guys saying? So yeah, let's keep going. Saliba, he's so unlucky for the handball. Like, I couldn't even be mad at him because how are you meant to jump without your hands? And like, this is the flaw in the handball rule, is that like the flaw in the handball rule is so simple because like in situations where defenders have always defended this way, like when you head the ball, you go like this. Like, it's human nature. Who heads the ball like this? Nobody does that. And so he's harshly punished for like something that, I mean, his aren't like, and like it's more about the handball rule for me. By the book, by the law, it's a handball. I knew as soon as they started reviewing it that it would be a handball, but I can't even sit here and be like mad at Saliba by it because it's not like he made a bad tackle or got caught out or anything like that. So despite that, I thought he had a pretty good game. I thought that he had a little bit about him on the ball, was trying to speed up tempo, but every time he passed to somebody, like they slowed it down even further. Like there was times where Saliba was getting the ball, pass it quick, try to move fast, and they were just so slow, like so slow. The ponderous, like from Odegaard and Jesus on the ball, everybody was just so slow on the ball, and so I actually don't think he made a wrong move, to be honest. I thought he was pretty good. I'm trying to think of anything where I was like Saliba was at fault for. Like, he conceded the penalty, but it's just such a dumb penalty, like the way that the rule is set up. So I'm gonna give Saliba a 6.5. Like, I just don't think he was that bad. I think he's unlucky for the penalty. I don't think anybody could be upset with him for it if you are like touch grass. But yeah, Saliba. Oh no, Manchester United getting cooked. Okay, so let's go. Let's keep going. Dale says Saliba, should players be punished for bad luck? No. That's kind of how I feel about it. Like I felt nothing when they got that penalty. I'll be so honest with you guys. Like I just felt as though like I hate the rule, but the rule is such that if you have your hand in the air and it's in an unnatural position, how this is an unnatural position for somebody heading the ball, I don't know. But you just have to be in the box. The ball has to hit your hand. And basically, if it's an unnatural position from standing, I guess, then, you know, it's a penalty. And so he was actually one of the better players today. It's so unfortunate that he got it. Johnny D says Saliba and Gabriel 7 for me, proud of them, and Rice from the starting team. I don't even think like we didn't have to defend that much. Like I think people, it's like you watch the game, you watch it full of emotion, so you think our backs were against the wall. Chelsea didn't create that much. We didn't have to defend that much. It's just like what can the defenders do beyond like they're trying to get it to our attackers and our midfield, and I think that was more of an issue on the day than anything else. Mark says Saliba is a 6, harshly punished with the penalty. Did not really put a foot wrong. Did nothing amazing either. Did his job today. Steady as always. Wanted to speed up the play with passing and movement. I agree with this 110%. It's like, what do you expect him to do? You know, what do you expect him to do here? Elliot Roberts says Saliba 6, good match, but unfortunately gave away the penalty. Yeah. Let's talk about Gabriel. Actually, think the same of Gabriel. I don't really remember him doing anything wrong. Like our center back pairing was fine today. I think we suffered on Zinny's side, which is why he was hooked. Midfield wise, like there just wasn't enough going on there. And the attack for me, the front four for the first 60 minutes was just like they were not even there. Like it was so crazy. Like, I don't know. We'll get to it, but Gabriel for me also gets like a 6, 6.5, 7. Like they didn't really do anything wrong. And like that's the thing about analyzing the game is like we gave up 2 goals, but when you isolate those 2 goals, it's really hard. It's really hard to see where they were at fault, you know, or the players that we needed to be looking at. Do you know what I mean? So you can be a center back and your team could have conceded a couple of goals, but it not really be on you, you know, so he didn't really do anything. Nostradamus says, Magalhaes, I feel like he was our most productive defender today, 7 out of 10. Elliot Roberts says, Saliba 6, good match, but unfortunately gave away the penalty. I think I read that already. Salah says, Gabriel 5, 5.5. Trini Gunner says, Gabriel 6.5. Andrew says 5 for Gabriel. John Donut says, I don't blame him for that pen. And John Donut says, Gabby 6. So exactly, like some players just happen to be on the side that's not playing well, but don't really do anything to deserve, you know, to be on the bad side. So there you go. Tommy, I think was good when he came on. I'll be really honest with you guys. Like there's been times where I've been calling for Tommy where I'm just like, we just need somebody to just fucking defend. Like I don't care about him inverting. I don't care about anything, but we needed to shut down the threat from Sterling. And like, unfortunately, you know, we had conceded the second goal right as soon as he got onto the pitch. So, you know, I don't feel like it felt like we got the rewards that we should have gotten for making that sub because I mean, but the goal comes on the complete opposite direction. There's nothing you can do. But in terms of stopping Gusto and Sterling, he did a very good job doing that. I think he shut them down on that side with Martinelli early on. And so for me, Tommy, like I think based on his second half performance and the fact that he did exactly what he's supposed to do, I'm going to give him a little 7. Tommy needs to play more. He's goal. McTominay. Is McTominay playing striker? Is he? Is he playing striker? He's just in the box. The man just cannot stop scoring. They don't actually need another striker. They could just put him up there. That's insane. He just scored another goal. Let me just look at it real quick. Dallo, cross. Just in a dangerous area. McTominay. Rashford passes it out to Lindelof. Lindelof passes it to Bruno. Bruno chips it in. You know what? Fair play to him. He's a striker. Whoever misprofiled him as a DM needs sacking, man. Good for him. A player that they've been calling shit for so long just needed to be in a different position. innovate, man. And Mark was just saying that Sheffield has been all over Manchester United, but the reality is like these teams are always on top of Man United for the first 20 something minutes, and then Man United score a goal. Like this is just how it is. But Tommy for me gets a little 7. I know that nobody really played well, but those 45 minutes that he played, he did nothing wrong, and he actually didn't like he wasn't involved with that. Oh God. Oh. He wasn't actually involved with that at all. So the second goal. So Elliot Roberts says Tommy 7, best of the defense today. John Donut says love this man despite his mistakes sometimes. Dale says Tommy serious it? I don't know what you're saying. John Donut says 7 for Tommy. World Boss says Tommy is very, very reliable. He's underutilized. I think we should use him more. And try Zinny in midfield. Just try it. Maybe they have tried it in training and it didn't work, but I need to see it to believe that it just cannot be done. Tommy at defense and Zinchenko in midfield. Just fucking try it. If you're willing to try Havertz in midfield, then why not try Zinchenko in midfield? I just don't understand. Mark says Tomiyasu 7. He did well, got stuck in. He shut down the left flank. He really shored the defense up. Exactly. So yeah, I definitely rated that performance from Tommy. This one's not going to be too good. Zinchenko, my goodness, honey bun. It wasn't good today, sweetie. It wasn't good today. It was not. I don't know where your mind was at. I don't know what was going on, but Zinny, the first couple minutes of the game, I just need you to be secure on the ball. I need you to just clear your fucking lines, okay? That first little mistake that he made trying to dribble out of the back was so unnecessary, and so you didn't have to do it. Like, clear your lines early. Like, when you're away from home against a good team, like, you just want to get through the first 20 minutes without any, like, penalty for Sheffield, you guys. Handball, I think. He calls it straight away. McTominay. They should review it. Let's see here. They're reviewing it. He called it. He said he's seen it. You couldn't see that red card though, could you, asshole? Yep, that's a pen. You're not getting away with that. Put it away, Sheffield. Put it away. That's a clear pen. You guys be serious. He reaches out like this. He reaches out like, be serious. Be for real. So yeah, but back to Zinchenko, it was not good. And I just need you to, like, your experience in the first couple of minutes of the game, clear your lines, be smart, don't try to be cute. And I think that, like, started us off on a really bad foot. I'm not blaming him for the entire game, but then he just, once he's isolated and he's not able to come central, he just becomes a left back, and that's where he becomes less effective, which goes back to our original conversation about how do we get the most out of Zinchenko now that the team is evolving, or other teams are clocking on to the Zinchenko coming inside. So yeah, I think that if Manchester United get away with this, I would be so surprised, because like he definitely puts his arm out there and stretches out. But Zinchenko, he just wasn't on it, So I'm glad he was hooked, but he was one of the worst performers in the first half, and he got absolutely roasted every single time that Sterling got the ball. Why are they reviewing this so long? See this? Yeah, it's a clear penalty. Why were they reviewing it for so long? I think the only reason why they reviewed it for so long is because it was Man United. Come on now. Be fucking for real. That was such a penalty. Like, be serious. Tawanda says 4. Andrew says 1 for Zinny. Trini says we rated Zinny already. Salah says Zinny for the bench. Who's with me? I would like to see him in midfield before we just completely pretend as though he's not useful. Yeah. Trini says Zinchenko 4. Mark says Zinny 4. Disappointing in defense. Did not support the midfield. Really struggled with their pace. One of them games where he's just totally neutralized. Ocampo says those subs today were amazing. We rarely give them credit for rolling the dice. We salvaged a sinking ship. It was a sinking ship, my friend. We were going down. McBurney! I love that name. McBurney is such a good name. Hugh says, if Timber was available, it's possible that Arteta might just use Zinny in midfield. John Donut says Zinny 3. McTominay, give it and then taketh away. That's so funny. Nostradamus says Zinchenko attempted one tackle today and didn't make it. He was non-existent pretty much 3.5 out of 10. Salah says Zinni set a bad tempo. I agree with that. I think you just have to, like, when it's early on in the game and you know you're playing up against good opposition, any opposition, you just have to kind of clear your lines early and like keep it safe a little bit to try to dribble out from that position. Just completely he was, what are you doing? What are you doing? Ivy says Zinni 3.5. Johnny says Zinni just ain't it for me. First, a lot of people, he's not it. I actually rate Zinchenko very highly, and I think he's the type of player that you need to know how to use him. Similarly to Jorginho, there's certain players in your team that just, like, you cannot isolate them like that, and you have to, like, know when they're becoming ineffective in certain ways. I think we beat a dead horse so long that we're not proactive. Like, I think, and maybe we were trying to be with Timber. I want to go back to this because maybe we were trying to be proactive with Timber because we saw that Zinchenko wasn't going to be as effective this season because people had figured it out. And without Timber, we've kind of had to revert back to that. So maybe I'm not giving maybe I'm not seeing the clear picture because of Timber's ACL injury. But I do feel as though, like, we need to be proactive in knowing when things are not going to work or having a plan B or something. I just feel like Zinchenko is too good of a player to say, you know what, he's not good enough for this team. Like, just put him on the bench. I think with a team that's struggling in midfield, it would be nice to see us try to utilize him in that position where that's kind of where he's playing anyway, but we need to shut the back door. That's just my opinion on it. That's my 2 cents on it. Here to there says agreed Zinni at left center mid rotational piece, but I don't like Zinni next to Odegaard. I haven't seen it enough to know if I don't like it. I haven't seen it enough. Johnny D says, let's not forget Zinni played only on rain and Odegaard was worse than him at Zinni's second job as midfield. We're going to get on to Odegaard, y'all. Okay. Just give me a minute. Ocampo says Zinchenko is so good when we are dictating play, but when it's a 50-50, it's hard for him because they may go long or direct. So maybe it's a situation where, against the bigger sides, against the teams away from home, when we're not really dictating play as much, Zinchenko needs to be on the bench or played in a different position. I think that there's a role there for him in midfield if we're just willing to try it and not be so rigid. But, I think that's the goal of the manager. Shoot. Idiot. Yeah, I think that's the role of the manager, to figure out a way to use your players in ways that make them look good and don't expose them. So yeah. Zinni, it was poor, baby, but we go again. You didn't play. Again, like somebody said earlier, won all of his duels and made the most passes into the final third. I think it's very harsh to blame it on him. I know you guys love Thomas Partey. I think Thomas Partey is a great player, and nobody has ever said that Jorginho is better than him. But the idea that he was like the main issue today was not really it. I don't know. People are saying like, well, why didn't Thomas Partey start? He didn't even come on. So maybe he was one of the players that didn't come back from international break in the best level of fitness. He flew all the way to the United States and back. He was recovering from an injury. He'd only played 20 minutes against Manchester City, and people expected him to start today. I think that's a little disingenuous when we've seen Partey start or Partey be rushed back and see that like it's ruined our season. That's a really good ball. Should be a goal. So I don't think Jorginho had a poor game or anything like that. I think he did as good as he could. But we're just missing a little bit of something. And maybe it was, Rice against Chelsea in the 8 didn't give us as much as it did against Manchester City. I also thought Rice and Jorginho were more of a double pivot against Manchester City, where it wasn't so much that dynamic in this game, where Rice was a little bit higher early to start. So I'm not quite sure what to make of it. I didn't see a bad enough, game from Jorginho. Like, there's a difference between a player having a poor game and us feeling like maybe somebody else should have started. And I think we conflate the two quite often. It's, did Jorginho actually have a bad game, or did you just want Partey in? I think two things can be true. Jorginho had a fine game, and maybe Partey if he's fit, would have been better, which we all know that Partey, when he's fit, is better than Jorginho, because ain't nobody ever said Jorginho was better than Thomas Partey. Come on. Be serious. So I'm going to give him a 6. He just wasn't that bad. But he also didn't it wasn't spectacular or anything like that. So let's see what you guys are saying. Yeah, so we're at the point now with the midfield where I think we need to see Thomas Partey, Rice, and Odegaard together, but only when Partey is fully fit, because we know when he's not fully fit, he's basically unusable. So let's not revise that. We know that when he comes back from injuries, it's really difficult. We need to see that to see if there's balance there, because we're all kind of holding our hopes on that midfield being the one, because we have not found midfield balance or a midfield that feels like it's clicking yet. And it's a little bit of a conundrum here, because we have 3 8s or 3 10s that none of us really feel that confident playing in that position. But also moving Declan Rice out there doesn't seem like that good of an option either. So it's hard. It's a hard one. Mark Neighbor says, I think Chelsea's press first half totally disorientated our entire team. That includes a fantastic passer like Jorginho. It happens. Arsenal Adventure says Jorginho was an agent for. If you can name anything that he did that was poor, please do, because again, he won all of his duels and made the most passes into the final third. So I didn't really see it. Here to There says, people forget that we must win on Tuesday, and Partey couldn't play today and Tuesday. People are so short-sighted. They only think with what's right in front of their nose. They don't think people were banging on about Mikel Arteta not resting Partey, rushing him back, misusing him, not knowing how to manage players, manage their minutes, not overplay them, not play them into the ground. They were just crying about Saka a minute ago. Now they're upset with Arteta for not starting Thomas Partey and not playing him at all, when we've all seen him get injured multiple times during a season, be rushed back, and not being able to get out of the hamster cycle of hamstring injury, groin injury. So it's just very 1 + 1 = 4. Okay, yeah, I don't like Jorginho. I don't think he's good enough. I wanted Partey to start. So so Jorginho was the issue. I just didn't see it. I don't see that. He was not the main issue here at all. Nostradamus says Jorginho was incredibly average today throughout, 5 out of 10. Who wasn't? It's also how could you say that he's the main issue or was the main problem or the source of all of our pain? The source of all of our pain when everybody was awful. Salah says Jorginho was one of our better players today. 6 for me, just because how the whole midfield started the game. Here to There says Jorginho was just average. He did okay. Nothing wrong. Nothing stand out. He did a job. I agree with that. Elliot Roberts says Jorginho was average at best. How he stayed on for that long is beyond me. Maybe because Thomas Partey is not fully fit. Maybe he came back from international break and wasn't, 100%. Is that out of the realm of possibility for anybody? That the reason why Thomas Partey didn't play today is probably because he wasn't fit enough to play today in a difficult game against Chelsea? Is that so hard to believe for anybody? So Jorginho probably stayed on almost the entire game because Partey was not fit enough. So I don't know. It all goes back to people pretending like they haven't seen 3 years of Thomas Partey and revising history. Good player, terrible injury record. We've seen it before. And if he's not fully fit, he's not good enough to play. When he's not fit, he's not good enough to play. So I don't imagine Arteta wouldn't have played Thomas Partey unless he just wasn't fit enough. Mark Neighbor says, oh yeah, I heard that. Let's see. Boy says 3-4 Jorginho, got nothing against him. He was just not a good tactical fit, simple as. If he wasn't a good tactical fit, that's on the manager, or it's on Thomas Partey for not being fit enough, so we didn't have to use Jorginho. Again, a player not being used properly or not being a right fit tactically doesn't equal he had a poor game. It just doesn't. It's period, boo. I'm more I'm seeing more clearly that sometimes the issue is more who was chosen, not the fact that they had a poor game. So yeah. That's just me. So let's see. Let's go next. I think ends up being our best player today because he scored the goal, and I think when we look back on the moments that he was probably all right. He had one poorish moment that hit the bar, man. He had one poorish moment, or a moment where I just didn't really understand what he's doing, if he was shooting or if he was crossing it in the first half and it went to the back post. But I said this during the stream, where even if he got that wrong and he did a cross shot, why is nobody crashing the back post? Like, that is like something, like, I played in America in AYSO. When we were in AYSO in rec, they would always say that the attackers need to crash the front post and the back post, like when they're seeing a cross come in or like a dangerous ball coming in. Like, you need to be at the back post. Why was nobody there? Why was everybody standing in strange positions that weren't anywhere near the goal? I didn't understand that. But he had a couple of little moments where I was like, that could have been better. But ultimately ends up being our best player, gets us back into the game by taking a shot that nobody else would ever take in our team. We are too hesitant to just hit the ball, punish teams. The reason why we don't punish teams when they make mistakes is because we're too worried about tip-tapping with the ball and, trying to be cute with it and take an extra touch. He just put it in the back of the net. Literally nobody else in our team is going to do that. No one. He ends up being our best player. He led by example today. And when he went back into the 6 role, I think he was a lot more effective. So I feel like I'm going to give him a 7. I thought, we don't get shit in this game without him. So another, game where, like Lens, where we really struggled, Rice was our best player. He's been our standout player all season. I'm so glad we spent the money. Nostradamus says Rice 7.5 workhorse, making up for the lack of movement from our other midfielders. It's a carry job for him right now. Unfortunately, we need to figure out how we're building this midfield around Rice and Odegaard. What is that other position that's going to allow those two to do their jobs to the best of their ability? And right now we haven't figured that out. And so, yeah, I don't know. Errol says Ramsdale has to start against Sevilla. I hope they start him against Sevilla. I hope for you guys, so you guys can, see that, start him against Sevilla. Do it, because it's not like Ramsdale has never had a dodgy performance in Europe before. Johnny says Rice 7. That shot is so hard to take. I think he aimed for the center of the goal, as he should. Aced it. Exactly. Exactly. Nobody else takes that shot. Nobody else takes the initiative. We have too many players that hide from the big moments sometimes. And like, Rice just kind of kept us going in it, and so I'm so glad we had him. Ocampo says Rice was immense to take advantage of that poor pass and score. It was ruthless when needed. Exactly. Andrew says Rice, easily our best player. Tawanda says 7. Let's see. Salvatore says good. Yeah, doing the bare minimum is good to you. That's why we'll never win a trophy. You ain't talking to me. I know you ain't. Boy says he definitely did more than Jesus did all time he had on the pitch. Yeah, not great. Errol's asking a very obvious question. Why didn't Thomas start? Maybe because the guy that's had a terrible injury record since being at Arsenal is probably not 100% fit. And we've seen that when you play him at 70, 50, 40, 30% fit, he's like a 0. So let's, we don't have the information. Ooh, good save. We don't have the information, but I don't think it would be that out of the realm of possibility that Thomas Partey wasn't even 100% match fit or 90 minutes match fit to play against Manchester City. So he flies all the way to America, comes back. You guys think he's just magically going to play 90 minutes against Chelsea? Be for real, y'all. Trini says, Rice baby 7. Yeah, Rice has to do a lot of work for us. John Donut says Big Rice 8. So yeah, like, he does a lot of work for us. And when we get the midfield balance right, it'll be so nice, because I just feel like he's doing a lot. Another poor game from Odegaard, I think. I said it earlier, but I think we might be on the edges of needing him to maybe sit out, for a game or so. I know he's our captain, and like, I appreciate everything he does off the ball, but even today, the off the ball stuff wasn't there. And so I can accept a game where you're not at your tip-top best on the ball, you're not getting assists and a goal. But what I don't really love is the fact that I just don't feel like we got much from him off the ball today. and he was just non-existent. He was the worst player, I thought, out of everybody. Saka was also pretty poor, but ends up getting the assist. Finally gets past Raya for like the first or the second time. So yeah, it's a tough one with Odegaard. I wouldn't mind seeing somebody else in that position against Sheffield. I think Odegaard is obviously going to start against Sevilla. We shouldn't expect anybody else to. Let's be serious. But against Sheffield, it might be a good opportunity to just sit him down. Maybe he needs just like a day off. And again, I think it's really harsh to say players that we know are good, that have been our best players over the last 2 seasons, that are, fucking Ballon d'Or nominees, by the way, to say that they're not good or they're crap or they're frauds or they're whatever. He's having poor games. A lot of players go through bad runs of form, but it's important for the manager to figure out when to stick and when to twist. And we might be close to a twist situation with Odegaard where he just may need to sit down. I just don't think he's ever really this season looked like his normal self. And I wonder if there's a little hangover from last season. I don't know, but at this stage, like, we have a couple of players that can play in that position. You have Vieira. Havertz also has played his best midfield, position on that side. I wouldn't mind seeing, Partey, Rice, Havertz against Sheffield or something to that effect. Get Partey some more minutes, play him with Rice. I'm sure against Sheffield he'll be fine. And maybe Havertz starting in that position or ESR or something. Because at this point, keeping playing him, this was his worst performance of the season so far. We didn't even get any of the off the ball stuff, which is very it's strange. So he gets a 4, 3, 4, whatever, like whatever you guys want to give him. You guys are gonna give him a 0, whatever. But I think we're at the point now where he might just need to sit out a game. Because right now it's not working and we have other players that could potentially play there, and maybe seeing somebody else play there and potentially doing well will be the kick up the ass that he maybe needs. Let's see. Salvatore says, Johnny says, Jess, your football knowledge surpassed your beauty, which is very impressive. I'm double stunned. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Elliot says Odegaard for Unless the Sun is Shining at the Emirates. Oh my goodness. I've never heard that name before and I am dead. Not Odegaard. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Mark Neighbor says second most gifted playmaker in the league, if not maybe the world, and people are hating on him. Make it make sense. I think it's perfectly fine and justifiable to criticize performances when they're not up to the standard. And the standards for Martin Odegaard are very, very high. So to see him performing well below his level is shocking. And it's disappointing because it does feel like when Odegaard's not playing well, we don't play well. So we need this guy to kick on. But it's also up to the manager to figure out, there's certain players that play poorly for a half and are yanked. And then there's other players that play poor game after poor game. And instead of like taking him out of the firing line and trying somebody else there, we kind of beat the dead horse. He just needs to sit out for a game or two. That's my feeling. We need him against Sevilla. We won't need him as much against Sheffield. But we're also probably going to need him against Newcastle. So there's a good chance against Sheffield to, maybe rest him so he can get his mind right. But also this may also be a conversation that, maybe I'm reaching here, but you have 2 players in Martin Odegaard and Saka that are pretty safe in their positions at this stage, like no matter how poor they play, which is not very often. I also want to put into perspective that, 5 bad games in 2 seasons is just not enough to be crying about. But they're the kind of players that, like, no matter how poorly they play, there's nobody in the team that Arteta trusts enough to put in there and say, you know what, you go today. And so maybe it's a little bit of like Odegaard needs to kick up the butt by seeing somebody else in his position, make him play. Like Martinelli never has the satisfaction of being able to sit down. Like but there's always somebody there to take his spot, but there's nobody there to take Saka's spot, nobody there to take Odegaard's spot. Odegaard knows he's going to start every single game. He is the captain, but like I'm not above dropping the captain if he's not giving us what we need after 4 or 5 games of him not really playing that well. But, at some point you need to make some sort of change. And so try Havertz there, try ESR there, try something different, and see if you can get something out of it. And I think it's in our best interest to do so, by the way, because if Odegaard were ever to get injured, we'd be up shit creek. So, it's a double-edged sword here. I think we need to find other solutions without Martin Odegaard, just because, just in case he gets injured. But equally, sometimes you just need to sit a guy down, and he might need to be sat down at this stage. I love Odegaard to death. I do. I think he's one of our best players, and I'm not about to sit here and pretend like he's not just because he's had a couple of bad games. But man, you gotta sit him down. You gotta sit him down at this stage. Kevin says it was scandalous leaving Partey out of today's game from the start. Maybe he's not fit. Have you guys thought about that? I still genuinely feel like people lie to themselves all the time. Partey, I would bet you that he came back from Ghana or his international duty. He trained and he wasn't 100% ready to go. That's what I would say, and anybody that's watched this man play know that if he's not at 100%, he's basically a zero. Come on, be serious. Nostradamus says 4 is extremely generous. No, I mean, everybody that played really, really poorly, I gave them a 4. I gave Raya a 4. I gave Zinchenko a 4, and I'm also giving Odegaard a 4. But also listen to my criticism of him. I'm not saying that he was good. So, if you want to give him a 0, give him a 0, Mark says, is it better to rest against Sheffield or play him and he might score 1 or 2 and the confidence will be sky high? Catch 22. This is high risk to rest our best playmaker we got. Well, I don't know. He had a really good game against Bournemouth, and then and he didn't score. No, he did. He had a goal and an assist in that game and went right back to poor form after. So I think we're kind of beyond that now with Odegaard. I do think that after 2 seasons of not really sitting down, he might just need a rest, a minute to just kind of take a breather and see somebody else in his position. Maybe it's not something that we can do because at the end of the day, nobody's going to press like him. Nobody's the manager on the pitch like him. So, you have certain players in your team that no matter how poorly they play, they have other factors in which make them important to keep on the pitch. But I am worried about Odegaard because if he's not playing well, we don't play well. And we don't have an answer for when he's not playing well. So we need to build that somehow. Here to there says, I'll repeat, today was important, but Sevilla's make or break. Even if Partey is 100%, Arteta would be a fool to try to play him twice in 3 days. No one listens. Everybody acts like they have not watched anything that's happened in the last 3 seasons, especially regarding Partey. They conflate his ability to who he's been at Arsenal, and he has not been consistently the players that you guys say he is. Because he's always injured. So today was very important. And I said it was a must not lose. We could not lose this game just because to keep us where we want to be, you don't want to lose. I think the rule of thumb is you beat top 6 sides at home and you don't lose away. That's kind of my formula. But Sevilla away is make or break, y'all. We have to win that game. We cannot lose that game. We have to win it. So, I do think that we got out and Partey got to rest. Partey for me starts against Sevilla, by the way. I thought it was important for him to start against Sevilla because it's going to be a difficult game in Europe and we need to go with Rice, Partey, and Odegaard. So if that meant that he didn't play against Chelsea, that's what it meant because he needs to play against Sevilla and he also needs to play against Newcastle. So again, Partey needs to be ready for us for the second half of the season. We need him to be good in November, December. He'll go away in January. And then from February on, we need that guy playing. So to get him in the injury cycle now because people are pretending as though this guy doesn't need to be managed, it's just foolish to me because if Arteta had played him today and he had pulled up, people would have been saying, well, Arteta should have managed him better. We have to get to the point where we realize that this guy cannot play 3 games a week. So we have to pick and choose the games in which he plays. So for me, that's Sevilla. That's Sevilla because he's going to play against Sevilla and then hopefully he'll play against Sheffield for a little bit and build up his fitness and he is ready to go against Newcastle because if you think Chelsea was difficult today, we got something coming for us at St. James. That is going to be a very, very hard game, and we're going to need Partey. We're going to need him bad. Jordan says, a lot of us are turning on Arteta. People need to back him and trust him to fix things with the squad. People just seem to want perfection from Arsenal all the time and can become toxic if we don't. I don't know. Like, people at at 2-0 were saying, Arteta, no matter if we have him, we're definitely never going to win anything. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's made a mistake with the lineup. And I don't actually think he made that big of a mistake with the lineup. I think players just played like shit today. If I'm honest with you, we had one player that was different from our best 11. And that does not excuse Odegaard, Jesus, Saka. That doesn't excuse Zinchenko. That doesn't excuse Raya. It doesn't excuse anybody. So players just played poorly, and blaming Arteta for absolutely everything and then not giving him any credit for anything, for me, is just that's just foolish to me, because it's like he did make the subs that ended up changing the game for us. But people were saying, oh my gosh, he kept Saka on. See, this guy, he's a clown. Oh my gosh, he take Martinelli off. Why? Well, Saka stayed on and got us the assist, and Trossard came on for Martinelli and got us the goal. It's a mixed one for, I think, Mikel Arteta today. Just because, you talk about the Raya decision and stuff like that. But are we going to really say that we felt like the lineup was just 100% wrong today? Those boys went out there and shot the bed on their own. Sometimes we have to look at the players and say, you know what? You just weren't good enough today. And it's not always on the manager. Odegaard was Arteta was not out there taking those touches. He was not out there falling on the ground, not making the tackles. He wasn't doing none of that. So I think we're always want to blame Arteta for everything, but I'm sorry, they were just poor today. He didn't galaxy brain anything. We played our best front three, we played our best back line. We played a midfield that had just beat Manchester City. Let's be serious for 5 seconds. It's not always his fault. Ocampo says we need to cover for White for January. It takes me to the Timber injury. He would be so useful for that defense to give White, Saliba, Gabriel a rest, but he doesn't trust Kivior. He definitely doesn't trust Kivior, and that's something that's standing out to me quite a bit, because this is a player that he said would change the way that we play, and now he's not getting any minutes, and that's concerning for me, because we spent a good amount of money on a player that I feel like is quality, but he's not getting any minutes. Why? Why wasn't Vieira in the team today? I thought maybe his girlfriend was in labor as well, but there's no, maybe she is, maybe they're on standby or something, but some of these squad players, we're going to need them bad. And so if you have to call on Kivior, he's going to be bereft of any sort of confidence. He hasn't played enough minutes. And it's a worry for me, because he plays in a very important position, where if something were to happen to Gabriel, we might need him. What if something happens to Tomiyasu? Kivior is important to the team, and he's not getting any minutes. You didn't play. Decent cameo from this guy. Nothing to write home about, but I thought he got stuck in. He played on that right hand side. I thought he played on the right hand side quite a bit. I would like to see him on the right hand side against a lower level opposition once, just to see what he'd be like. Definitely wouldn't be doing it, against Newcastle, but against Sheffield, I wouldn't mind seeing it. Because we need somebody else that can create chances on that right hand side, and we need to find somebody else with a connection to Saka. Maybe that's ESR, because we know that they have that, already inside. But I thought it was a decent cameo for him. I'll give him a 6.5. Nothing to write home about, but I thought it was a decent cameo for him. Well done. Well done. That's all I can ask, is that you come out there and you make a difference. I didn't want him to start today. I don't think he should have, but good for him. Let's see. Arsenal Adventure says Kai needs to play up front more. Play him there against Sevilla. Chosen One says 8 for Kai. Great cameo. Looks great at center forward. Chosen One says 8 for Kai. Looks good at center forward. Yeah, I saw that part. Boy says Arteta doesn't trust the players he bought far as I'm concerned. Will be interesting to see what lineup he goes with in defense when we have to play in the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup game. Yeah, because we're going to play against a good side in West Ham, who are probably going to go strong because it's the Declan Rice derby. Like, it's going to be a cup final for them. Like, don't get it twisted. They're going to want to go at us badly. So if we put out a weekend lineup, I don't think it'll be as easy as it wasn't even easy to beat Brentford. It wasn't. It was hard with a rotated lineup. So will he trust Kivior? Will he go back to his usual? I think we need to show players that we trust them and mix them in with starters, not play 7, 8 changes, but 3 or 4 changes, 5, something like that. A good mix of players so that, the players that are coming in feel confident enough and there's enough of that like continuity in there, but that you trust them, because there is going to come a point where we're going to need Kivior or need Vieira or need somebody like that. And it's not going to be when we really want to. It's going to be in a time where we're under pressure or something. And like these players just don't get enough minutes to be trusted and to have the confidence to do it. And they're not Trossard. Trossard is an experienced player, has played in the Premier League. He's going to be able to give you something despite not playing very many minutes. Vieira and Kivior are different. They need minutes. They're Arteta signings. What's going on? Like, I don't understand. I don't think Kivior is a bad player. I don't think he's a bad player. I just won't be gaslit into thinking it, But yeah, good for Kai. I give him a like 6.5, 7 as well. Came in, had energy, got stuck in. It's weird because I think both him and Kai look better and operate better off of the right. I'll be so real with y'all. Like, I think ESR looks good on the left when he's playing at left mid, but where he looks the best is in the right half space. And I think Kai is the same. And that's where we have a little bit of a dilemma here, is because all of our midfielders that play the number 10 role also operate best on the right. We don't have anybody in our team that I feel like is 100% comfortable in that left space, except for Zinchenko. So Arteta needs to figure that out. But ESR probably deserves more minutes. Definitely afraid of him leaving in January and going to another Premier League side, but I'll give him a 6.5 for his cameo. I think he was fine. Okay, so here we go. I love this player so much. I think he's misused quite frequently because, again, he's the type of player that needs to be closer in to goal, and he's just not going to be that great isolated 1v1. Like, that's just not his vibe. He's a combination player. He's a goal scorer, so you want to put your goal scorers, your guys that are good and like neat and tight spaces central. He's more of a creative like forward than a out and out winger. So he suffers when we ask him to do Martinelli things because only Martinelli can do that in our squad. But this is a very quality player that needs to be utilized. What if he could play left 8? Has anybody thought about that? Like, I know that he's not great off the ball, but like none of our other options are that great off the ball. But Trossard, when he's played left center mid, has looked at least comfortable to create the chances that we're asking that player to do. Player to get onto the ball, little slip balls. He also can score goals. Like, I would love to see him there again because, again, we have Zinchenko and we have Trossard that are both comfortable in the left half space. And none of the other number 10s are comfortable. Vieira and ESR and Kai all like to be on the right. So maybe try Trossard in the left center mid with Rice and Odegaard. Just try it, against lower level opposition, see if we can do something different, because if we're looking for creativity, you have it there, but he needs to be in central spaces. But the way he's been spoken about over the last couple of weeks has been, for me, atrocious, because Trossard is a very good player. And like, we don't, he may not be Martinelli in terms of style, but like, be serious for 5 seconds. He has quite a bit of GA for a player that plays so little. So for me, you get an 8. You changed the game, buddy. You rocked my world. You saved my weekend. And I'll always thank you for it. And first quality ball in the box for Bukayo Saka. And guess what? We score. I like him. I like him a lot. Andrew says 6.5 did what he's asked plus the goal. He's our super sub. Ocampo says Trossard gets a 10. Definitely saved the point for us. Shaquille says, Jess, he played there in preseason and looks so good. And Arteta has never put them there again. I don't know why. I don't know why either. Try it. Like, we can't be any worse than what we're doing now. Ooh, Rashford cooked somebody. Oh, no, he didn't. Elliot Roberts says Trossard 7. Saved our bacon again. Saved our bacon. Akal said, sure, Fabio is Edu Mendes Arteta player. Ocampo says, I looked at City's bench versus Brighton, and oh my, they have options that can swap all over their defenders. What should we do in January to close the gap? I think before we David Ornstein has already kind of said that don't expect anything from Arsenal in the January transfer window. And although I'm disappointed by that, I do think that when you look at our players, we automatically assume that they're not good because the manager is not playing them. But I don't think that's the truth. I think we're not getting anything near enough from the players that don't play consistently. That's what I feel. It may not be Manchester City's bench. We're never going to have a bench like Manchester City, by the way. They're playing a completely different game than us. I think like our most analogous like club to look at that's similar to us is Liverpool. Liverpool has never had a bench similar to Manchester City, but they've always made it work. You need to squeeze as much juice out of the players that you got. And right now, we're not getting enough. Like, we're not getting enough from those players. And like, I just genuinely refuse to say that we don't have quality depth. We don't have Manchester City's depth, but that doesn't mean like that's depth that nobody else in Europe has. So we need to cut that out and like not just always compare ourselves to them. There's a team that's has similar resources to us that has been able to compete with them. And that's because Klopp squeezes every little bit of juice out of every single player that he has. He had Milner playing for him for years. Milner's not amazing. He's just consistent. You know, he's a consistent, steady Eddie type of player. He's getting stuff out of everybody. So yeah, I just feel as though like we need to stop comparing our bench and stuff like that to Manchester City because we don't have those same resources. But we need to not let Arteta off the hook and say, well, he doesn't trust Kivior, so that means Kivior has to go or he's crap. He needs to use these players more. He needs to develop them. You know, he needs to figure out ways to use them in their best positions. He needs to be more flexible in his tactics because asking Trossard to do what Martinelli's doing is just going to make Trossard look bad. Asking Jorginho to do what Rice is doing is just going to make Jorginho look bad. You know, like I think that's more a problem than anything. And if Arteta needs the same player in every single position that's the same quality, you ain't getting that. You know, you need to do better with what you got. So find internal solutions, you know, because that's what we're going to need. Because we're not going to, after spending £200,000 in the 200, million, whatever, spending a shit ton of money this summer, we're not going to go out there and buy another 80 million pound player, you know? So I genuinely feel like we just need to like expect the manager to get more out of what we have and stop constantly letting him off the hook, you know? Mark says Man United are really awful. Sheffield deserved to win this game at the moment. You know they're not. Ify says Trossard didn't put a foot wrong today. What a game changer and a baller. 8. John Donut says Trossard was clutch today. 7 for injecting energy into the team and scoring a very important goal. Johnny says beg to differ. Timber will come back and our attack will be better. I love Timber. I miss him so much. Akinola says Trossard or Martinelli as substitute. They are always a game changer. They aren't like it's our most stacked position. I think. It's our most stacked position, like in terms of like quality players that like both of them are like on very high levels, even though they're quite different, you know? So, and we only spent like what, 30 million on that position. It's really good. So yeah, really appreciate Trossard there. He didn't play. Saka, he's lucky he got that assist, y'all, because he was ranked today. He could not get past Cucurella. I'll give him a little bit of a pass as well. Like I do think we're quite harsh on players that are just coming back from injury. I think Saka, deserves a little bit of grace here. He's just coming back from injury and his first game back is against Chelsea. But he still got an assist. And I think that also speaks to the quality of the player. Most players that have terrible games or are really, underperforming don't get any GA. And he still added to his GA today despite not having his best game. I expect him to get better, obviously. I have not seen Ryan Brewster in years, y'all. He is still around. Like, it's insane. He went to Sheffield and just like disappeared. And now I'm seeing him for the first time. I'm like, you're still there? Damn. Anyways, but Saka, I think, people were going really far with it again on the watch along saying embarrassing shit. why is he staying on? He hasn't done anything. Well, that's why he stays on, because if you need a moment of quality, he's going to give it to you. The first good ball in the box, he produced it, and Trossard was there. So for me, Saka, I'm going to give him a 6, but it's a 6 with an asterisk because, honey, the first 80 minutes were not good. But yeah, I think he gets a 6, maybe a 6.5 for the assist. But he's just coming back from injury, and I think we're very unkind from our players sometimes when they come from injury. Like, he's gonna get back to his form. Like, let's just relax. Johnny D says that assist was mad, 6.5. It was great. Tawanda says Saka isn't fit. I don't think he's 100% fit. But again, we want half fit players playing all over the pitch because it makes us feel better. Come on, score! How'd you miss? How'd you miss? How'd you miss? How'd you miss? Sheffield, they're all over them. So you know they're going to lose. Attackers Academy says, realistically, we should be giving ESR 5 games in the left 8 to see what happens. We just don't do that, though, Attackers Academy. It's something I've been saying for a while. I think you have to give a player 3 or 4 games in the position and say, you're going to get 3 or 4 games to play in this position and prove that you can do it. That gives them the ability to let their shoulders relax, knowing that the next game that they'll get another chance to build on those performances. If it's 80 minutes here and then 5 minutes there, and then you don't play for another 2 games and you get 10 minutes, and it doesn't give you a chance to really build up anything. So I wouldn't mind seeing ESR in the team against Sheffield, but I want to feel like he's going to get 3 or 4 games on the bounce, or else it's not really worth it for us to try it. If you look at the way Pep rotates his team, like, players get 3 or 4 games on the bounce to show what they can do consistently, no matter who they're playing. And I know that he has that luxury because they're usually the dominant team, but we're also a very dominant team. So can he not formulate a way for ESR to play 3 or 4 games in a row so that we're not just continuously, ripping him in, putting him in, ripping him out? I don't know. It's something that I've questioned for a while. How do we get the most out of the players that, don't play very often? So yeah. Mark Neighbor says, Saka 6 for me. He did absolutely nothing in the first half. Anonymous. But as you said, he stays on and he can produce that magic at any time. And he was definitely not 100% fit. Exactly. Ivy says, Saka 6.5. Nice cross to Trossard. I wish he did more of that in the first half. Hope he's back to his best soon. Me too. And I'm sure he will. Like, again, this is a player that's been one of our best for 2 seasons. Like, I'm not about to start rewriting history on the player because he's having, a mixed bag of games. I don't think it's not out of the realm of possibility that both Odegaard and Saka are burnt out, or need a little bit of a rest. They never get a rest. Last 2 seasons, they played almost every single match for us in every single competition. So I do think that not having anybody else to come in for them is a little bit of like negligent for Arsenal, because then you can't protect your best players. But equally, I think we should be a little bit more kind to players that have been so consistent for us for so long. And it's not just like off the ball, hard running and duels. These are players that have like carried us with goals and assists for a while as well. So I'm just not really willing to like go too hard into Saka off of his first game after an injury when he still got an assist. It wasn't a great performance, but like, we don't have to revise history on every single player that has a bad game. Eddie should have scored, I think, but, had a little bit of energy about him. I don't know what else to say. Like, he was all right. Like, he had a little bit of energy and stuff. I don't know. That's really poor from Sheffield. They should punish them for that. But yeah, I don't know what you guys think about. What do you guys think about Eddie's performance? Was it anonymous? Like, do you remember anything from it? Am I being harsh? Like, I think he was just okay. Like, he was a part of the team that came on and changed the game, but I can't name anything specifically that he did to change the game, if that makes sense. So you guys can give me some direction there, but I'm just going to give him a 6. I can't name anything poor that he did, but I also can't name anything good, but he came in with the new group. So there you go. Let's see. Boy says Arteta won't give any other players a Havertz run. Well, I think that's a flaw. I think that's unfortunate. Like, he really should do that because it's the only way that players gain confidence. You have to play multiple games. Nostradamus says Eddie with a solid 5. Johnny D says Eddie was slightly better than Odegaard, 3.5 out of 10. So yeah, like, I don't think Eddie did anything to write home about. Andrew says Eddie a 5, same old, same old. So he just kind of ran around a little bit, fouled, and should have scored. Another player that had a poor game. I thought on the ball, I was really surprised by Jesus's lack of like technical security. I thought he was very loose on the ball and like his touches were very poor. And then he had some like head loss moments where he just kind of like when he kicked the ball randomly, like when it came to him, he had no composure. And again, like that's why I say like what Rice did is so like groundbreaking for me because our players usually don't do that. They have moments where other teams make mistakes and they just hoof it or you try to dribble or something. And I thought Jesus really struggled to impact the game in a meaningful way. I don't think he had a shot on goal. He didn't look like scoring. Martinelli put a good cross into the back post, I thought, and Jesus just no, was that today? I don't know. Maybe it wasn't, but it happens almost every game that Martinelli plays. He puts in a decent cross and Jesus is nowhere near it. And I just wonder what we're doing with our striker situation because, like we were saying earlier, that ball that Rice puts into the box in the first half should be hit in by a striker. A striker should have a nose for goal and say, you know what? The ball might go to the back post. Why was nobody crashing the box? Like Jesus needs to be there. And there was two other opportunities where I just felt like we don't run in front of the defender. We don't make it difficult for them when we're putting balls into the box. If it doesn't hit us and we're not open, we're finished. So we don't score. That's why I said we don't score the easy goals. Ooh, I think Sheffielder got done here. Yeah. Ooh. But yeah, I think we don't score the easy goals because our strikers don't have the nose for goal. It's becoming more and more frustrating as time goes on. But I don't think he was as bad as Odegaard, Zinchenko, and Raya, so I'm gonna give him a 5. But it was bad today. It was bad today. Elliot says Jesus 5. There's a need for a new number 9. It is clear. Adedamola says, draw against Fulham, Tottenham, and now Chelsea. What's going on with the derbies? It was awesome. We didn't lose. It was like coming from the dead. Wow. I mean, I'm celebrating this like a damn win because y'all, it was looking so bad. I was so dreading doing this and I still didn't like it. I mean, I'm having fun with you guys, but it still wasn't fun because we're not going like 9, 10. So yeah, but it's at least we didn't lose. Akinola says, Jesus tries to overdo dribbling rather than passing the ball. It's frustrating. I'll give him a 5. Mark Neighbor says Jesus and composure are two things that do not go in the same sentence. Good point. Boy says 5 for Jesus. There was a moment where he gave the ball away and the camera zoomed in on his face and he looked defeated. Rice got to give him a harder head. You can see the frustration on Jesus. I think that's one of the things that, although he's a player that I highly rate and I love to death, one of the things that I noticed about him, even when he was at City, is that the mental side of the game, he gets really rattled easily and he can get wrapped up in his emotions. He misses one shot and then it's just done. He lost the ball a couple of times and he was just like, the head loss was just like so obvious. And, we're getting into the stage with Jesus where he's like 26, 27 years old and we need you to become a calm head in a storm sometimes, and he just doesn't give us that. That's why I don't really consider him a leader in the team. I still think we lack leadership because in the moments where things are going bad, that's where you see where your leaders really are. And I think we're seeing who's the leader and who's not. And just because you're older, you have more experience doesn't make you a leader. I don't consider Zinchenko or Jesus leaders in this team. I think it's more like Rice, Odegaard for the most part. Saliba, I think, is turning out to be a young leader. He shouldn't have any sort of stress on him to become a captain or anything like that. But in terms of like when shit is going bad, the guy is stepping up and playing like decently on his own. Gabriel also, so we still lack leadership in this team. That's for sure. So Jesus he has head loss, he's always had it. And it's the reason why he's not considered one of the best players in the world. It's not that he lacks any sort of talent, but the mental side of the game is so important. He had a bad game today. Here to There says, I'll give Jesus a break today, but we want to see him combining and running off Martinelli on Tuesday. Yeah, we just didn't see anything from our attack. Ooh, what are you doing? Austin! Come on now. Good. Yeah. Austin Trusty, man. I still rate him. Here to there says Martinelli is def a leader. He always wants the ball, and it's a tough spot. Martinelli is somebody that you can always rely upon. I think he would have been more dangerous had everybody else been playing better as well. Like, I just think where he was a little bit bright, everybody else was quite dim, So I think Martinelli does lead from example. Oh my gosh, you should have seen the way that what's his name flopped. You should have just seen it. He was shot dead, yo. Who is that? Who's that? Who's that? Who is that? I've never seen a team flop the way that they do. Manchester United. It was actually like, oh, never mind. We know who it is. It was Anthony. It was like he was shot in the back. Come on now. Nostradamus says 3.5 out of 10. Had near 70 minutes and did frankly nothing other than successfully making 13 out of the 15 passes. Yeah, it's like it's so crazy how as bad as we were, we still drew that game because nobody really played that well. Ocampo says Jesus gets a 5. He always fights. So yeah, I gave him a 5. Sheffield are not surviving this, y'all. But they're not surviving this. No way. I think that's the last person. So, we went through the player ratings. Obviously we'll do Arteta as well. You guys can let me know what you thought. But again, I'll say this again. I just am not really seeing this big mistake that Arteta made with the starting 11. It's a very strong 11 with only one of our not as like there's only one other player we could have put in that lineup that would have upgraded what we had. And so the idea that the entire first performance, like the whole first 80 minutes was all Mikel Arteta's fault or he got something like gravely wrong for me is just like, I'm sorry, he's not out there making the mistakes, So the players, I think, need to take a lot of the responsibility for today. And it was actually Arteta's subs and decisions when subbing that got us back into that game. So, for me, it's a mixed one for Arteta just because we didn't play as well. And like, obviously the manager gets some blame, but some of the Arteta just gets it wrong every single time. I'm just like, no. So I'm going to give Arteta a 6. Like your subs saved the game. So that's good for you. And, but it's hard because we didn't win the game, so I don't know. It's hard to it's hard to do the manager because sometimes I just feel like as soon as we don't play well, it's like Arteta. It's like, when are y'all going to tell us? The players were out there looking a fool. Like, I'm sorry. They were looking terrible. Boy says 6 for Arteta. Needs to address the inverting situation. Needs to think more tactically about who the starting DMs are. Great subs, though. I like that you said that because I think where Arteta he really needs to dig down deep and figure out what he's going to do. I think he's trying different players in the midfield and trying to understand what's happened. And basically what happened is we didn't recruit properly. I can tell you that right now. They need to have a discussion with the recruitment team and Arteta and say what went wrong, because for us to have this many issues in midfield so far, and not looking stronger, looking more, looking worse than we did last season midfield wise after spending 165 million on the position is alarming. We need to look at something internally. He needs to figure out something to patch it up from now until the end of the season, because we're not going to go out there and buy another midfielder. I just don't think we will. So he needs to figure something out and figure it out quick. Maybe it's Partey, Odegaard, and Rice. Maybe that's the solution. But we just saw that Rice didn't look as good in the 8 as he did, against Manchester City the 2 times that he played there. So maybe it's more, games against the best team, he looks good there, but maybe he looks so much better in the 6. So what do we do there? Do we play a double pivot? Do we play with a natural number 10? Do we change to a 4-2-3-1? What do we do? I'll tell you one thing. I think the players that we have, if we're going for internal situations, would look a lot better in a 4-2-3-1. But, I think you have to look at the recruitment and say, why is it that we don't have a midfield that looks balanced after spending so much money on the position? I think Rice is fantastic, but you need to figure out the balance there on that left-hand side because we're not getting anything out of it. And, yeah, it's tough. It's a tough one. We haven't played Havertz there in a couple of games. is that a sign that they've already given up on that? I don't know. Tawanda says, personally, poor selection. It's on Mikel. Should have started Havertz, Rice, and Odegaard, Trossard over Martinelli, and Ketty at center forward, and Jesus at right wing. -10. I see what you did there. Mark Neighbor says, Arteta gets a 6. I do not put the blame on him for subpar performances across the across the whole pitch. Second half was dusted as soon as we conceded. So hard to tell if it how it would have panned out. That's how I feel. That's how I feel. He can't get a 10 because we didn't win. But ooh, they hit the bar again. This is getting bad for Sheffield. They're not surviving. They're so close. They're so close, Man United. Ivy says Arteta got the starting 11 right. He should have taken Odie off earlier. 6. Ibrahim says, why use Saka in the first half? He's not 100% game fit. Because one, Saka is the only player that we have in the team that can do anything similar to what he can do. And Saka, unlike Thomas Partey, can play half fit and still be one of our better players. So, Saka gets treated differently. He's younger. He recovers from injuries better. And he's still our best right winger, no matter what condition he's in. Even if he's 50% fit, he's still probably the better option there. So I don't really blame him for starting Saka because we know Saka is the only one that can do what he can do. But, and Saka also didn't travel. Like, he was sitting at home on ice. So I don't really blame him for doing that. Here to there says, Jess, you said it best. Arteta tries to play the same way with different players. Trossard, Martinelli. Notice how Klopp doesn't ask Nunez, Gakpo, or Jota to play the same at the 9. Exactly. It's just something that I think Arteta needs to work on. It sounds rich from me, like I'm just sitting here from the outside, but I just, feel like I see the same tactics no matter who's out there. And I just don't think you can ask Trossard to do the same job as Martinelli or, Jorginho to sit in a single pivot. I just want to see some more flexibility and using the players in a way that's going to make them look good and not let them look bad. All right, let's leave on a high note. You guys, we're still unbeaten. Chelsea doesn't have that over us. They bottled it, whatever. We live to fight another day. And I hope, I was a lot more positive today than I usually am. And I'm going to try to stick on with that because you guys know I'm going to always be 100% honest with you guys about how I feel. I'm not going to just if I don't think a player is good enough, I'm going to say it. If I think a player is good enough or I think that they deserve more time, I'm going to say that. If we played poorly, I'm going to say it. But ultimately, I think we're going to have games like this where we're just not good. We see every single team, no matter how great they are, have terrible games. It's a matter of, can the team find a solution to not lose it? If you can't win, do not lose. I'm disappointed in how we played, but the result is what it is. That's kind of where I'm at with everything. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. I am going to be, let's see. I'm going to be doing the post-match show with Gunnar Lee tomorrow, and it's going to come out on Monday. So make sure you guys are looking out for that. May do a little stream tomorrow. I'm not sure. I have to see how I'm feeling and stuff like that, but may do a little stream tomorrow. If you guys are about just to chit chat, I'm sure you guys will have more to talk about off of the back of this game. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel. I really enjoyed talking to you guys and spending my entire day with you. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we will talk soon. Like and subscribe. Talk to you guys soon. Bye, y'all.